Welcome to the film genre workshop. The objective of this is essentially really just a space for students to work on lighting for second year films and also their final year films. Second year mainly because that's when they'll start using lighting, and obviously they'll learn these in classes, but they may not get the amount of time they need in class to do something a bit creative with lights. And third year, I think this will be very important before they go out to shoot their films, so that they will actually have a space where they can come in. They might have like a treatment of like a scene that they want to recreate, or a specific scene that they want to recreate, but they know they won't have time on set, so they can come into this workshop and just essentially have a little bit of freedom to take the time with it. Liaise with me as well, and we'll both work to it to create the effect that they're looking for. So yeah, that's pretty much the overview of it. The way I would structure it out is that I would go through just the basic 3-point lighting system that they will learn in class. So for 3-point lighting, as a lot of us know, it's a key light, fill light, and your backlight. So get some lights turned on here. Traditionally, you would use a photon for a key light, just because you need that to be the most dominating light source in there. I put a half diffusion on there as well, just because these lights can get really harsh. You need some like softness in there as well. Otherwise, your shot's going to look overexposed. That's not what we want. So we've got key light. So now we've got our most dominating light in there. But you can see there's a bit of shadows now on the right-hand side of the face. So that will be where the fill light will come in. And here you can see that the majority of the shadows are being taken away. You can obviously increase that or decrease that how you like, and also change the color temperature on the LEDs. So that's on max, and a bit of CTO, as this is all in tungsten. And you'll also want a backlight to bring out the highlights of the person's head. This is especially used for, if you have important characters in the scene, someone, important figure, you want every bit of them to be showcased. So that will be where the data lights come in. And you can either have them like this, where they're a bit low to the ground, reflecting just around here. So if I just show you like that. You can see I can increase it and decrease it if it's on the lower setting. I like to keep these dimmable because, especially if I'm on set and lighting might change or something, I know I can just easily go in there, change my backlight as much as I want, or with the backlight. And this is personally what I like to do when I'm like shooting a scene or anything like that. I do it directly behind the person's head, and that just brings out a bit more features on there. You can also do these simultaneously as well, and just brings out a bit more brightness to the person's head. Now, what I like to go into, obviously this will be where I would go to the students' films and pick out what type of genres they're going to be shooting, and we will work together to see what we can recreate. I don't want to make these workshops me just standing up here talking too much. I want them to be involved. I want them to be creating, doing their own thing. So, for example, for today, what I've done, I've just chosen genres that I'm a fan of when it comes to lighting. So the first genre I've chosen is horror. Now, horror is such a great genre when it comes to lighting. You can essentially do whatever you want when it comes to lights. So you can you can broadcast as many shadows as you want, as many highlights. You can even change colors and not worry about motivated lighting. Motivated lighting is obviously when you're recreating lighting from a source. So you want to just randomly have a tungsten light beaming on someone's face without knowing where you are in that room. So you might be, for example, in a burning building. If there's tons of if your scene's going to be in a burning building, you're going to want that orangey tones, have tons of light beaming through. You might even have an aperture light in there, creating effects of like warmth, creating those ember effects and whatnot. But if you're just going to be doing that, for example, in this studio space, where's that light coming from? You don't know where that light source is coming from. Is it supposed to be a light? Is it supposed to be someone shining a torch? Whereas with horror, you're essentially, what you're doing with the audience is you're already making them believe that we live in a world full of monsters, ghouls and all this fantasy items. So it's fine to get away with unmotivated lying because they already know this isn't real. I know what to expect. So you can go ahead and throw in wacky colors. Get away with just having the one light source beaming on people's heads, what I really like in horror is when they just use one light. Conventionally, you can still use a 3-point light setup in a horror film, but you would take away your key light, take away your fill, and then you'd always get for a character just the backlight reflecting on that person's head. So as you can see on the monitor, you're not getting any facial features of that character. You're just getting the back of their head with a bit of light coming through. Now, perfect example of this, Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger. He's got such a distinctive silhouette, and you want to bring out those features, but you don't want to see that face. It's all part of that anticipation of like these creatures, that eerie effect. So obviously he's got the sharp claws coming at you. You know it's him, but you just don't we're not showing the face. It's all about teasing. They're coming directly at the audience. It's building up that anticipation, that fear, that you have. What would be good as well if you had them, whack on like a red gel or something a bit more extreme, like purple or something, just to build up that atmosphere even more. You like, where is this person coming from? Is it like from the depths of hell? Like, what universe is this? It's just all part of like playing with the fears of the audience. But another way that backlighting could work is, for example, if you're out and about at night, you might want to recreate a bit of moonlight. And here you'll see a bit of backlighting, but you've got a bit of facial features in there. Useful if you're trying to conceal someone's face, but not show too much of their facial features. But like, for example, if they've got a speaking scene, you're just seeing the character's mouth. You're not seeing their eyes. You don't know what, there might be a demon or something. Prime example of this, the film It. You see Pennywise, the clown, inside the sewers. You never see his eyes. You just see just like little flashes of eye. They focus on the mouth. Focus on him talking, and it's just you're speaking to this interdimensional creature, just someone who's just really mysterious. You don't know who they are, and what I noticed watching that scene as well, you just don't know what's going to happen, because they're lurking away in the shadows. You don't want the main characters to come close to them, otherwise you feel like there's going to be a jump or something. It's just building all that anticipation. If you watch the film The Exorcist as well, there's a scene where she's obviously being possessed, and she's on the bed screaming, and a prime example what they do is use that backlight source as the moon, and what they will do sometimes in film is spray a bit of hairspray or something, but directly on the beams. Obviously students will do this in caution, not making sure that they don't get it on the lights or anything like that, but it just creates that haze effect as well. And yeah, it's just a bit of a cheap way of getting away with a really cool effect. Also in horror, I've noticed that they love to use the color red in a lot of situations, you know, and that could be used subtly. So they might use it with uplighting, which you can get away with using on the data. So now you see that shadow has been cast with that red gel, bit of a red glow on that face. So now it's more of a little reveal of who this character is. Still, you've got that eerie look, you know, and when you're doing uplighting, it makes the character look very dominant as well, especially in horror. You know, like you don't want everything to be exposed, but you want to have that little that eeriness feel there and everything. What you can also then do as well, if you're looking for a bit more, if you're looking for a bit more like depth in your film, you know, a bit more like for the audience to be a bit more submerged, you might have something a bit more disorientating. So you could have like your gaffer down here while you're shooting from there, moving the light a little bit. So that could be like, yeah, you have that effect of just a bit more, you know, eeriness. Works well with films that do like jump scares for horror, you know, because you're moving the light constantly left to right, and then at a moment's notice that figure could just pop into your face, and yeah, it's a really effective effect when it comes to horror. But obviously, you don't always have to go this subtle when it comes to the red color. For example, you'll see horror films where it's set in hell, and they'll want to just go full out with the red effect. So that comes to using. You might want to just cast just full on red. You know, you're getting that like otherworldly feel to it. You know, you don't know where you are. You're in that atmosphere of like that like demonic atmosphere. You know, works well with like supernatural films rather than you could get away with it in like slasher films as well, especially if like a character can kill or whatnot. But definitely a bit more supernatural rather than you know something a bit realistic. Yeah. Any questions so far, by the way, about like the horror genre and like using lighting with that?
No question, but just a comment that well, first of all, you know, your reference. Well, I'm really surprised with your references.
I know. I mean, it's just.
You know, you may have people in the room, not this room, but you know, in the room with students, they'll be thinking, what the hell is he talking about?
With the references, I'm just doing my own for now. Like, obviously, they will bring their own references in these sessions. These are just my own references of like films that I've seen.
But it might be, it might be.
We'll know the references.
Yeah.
But it might still as well though, because again with the lighting, to have a visual reference as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
To maybe bring in.
So once it's because like I've been working on a presentation as well for this. So while I'll be doing this workshop, I've actually been working on a presentation, so I actually have a presentation here.
I mean, I guess
Yeah,
that's what
that'd be
I'm
perfect.
getting at.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I get all your references.
Yeah.
Going in 2005.
I know.
But examples would be nice, yeah.
Of course, yeah. So when I'm actually doing this workshop for real and everything like that, I've already started the presentation, but it's just again like I've been like just rushing with that. So I actually have a presentation. I'll have it on the computer, playing on the TV. You know, so they'll be looking back and forth and like seeing the references as well. So again, I know me talking about the references, it's saying one thing, but without an actual visual reference, I know it can be a bit difficult for students. So there'll definitely be like visual aids and stuff like that.
So it would more like be broken into like blocks.
Basically,
like,
yeah.
This film, this style, show them how to do it, then they get a go, but they then get hands on.
Essentially, that's what it would be like. Yeah. So they'll do that, but I would kind of change up the presentation as well according to like
what they want.
What they want, yeah. So I would ask students to send me what films you're doing, and then I'll create references based on like what I think would work. And they can recreate it, but then they can be like, oh, I don't really like that, I want to do this. I'm like, yeah, that's fair enough, And it's a collaboration workshop between like technician and student. I want them to also pitch ideas as well, not just me standing here for however long just talking, nonsense.
So is it aimed more at like a year that already has an understanding of like what a modifier is and like what a gel does?
Yeah.
So it's aimed more to try and like find a style.
Essentially, yeah, that's
than it is like the technical end of like what things do.
Yeah, because when I first came out with the workshop, it was catered more to third years.
Yeah.
Especially the ones going out before making their final films. That they've had the training and everything like that. It's now this is your chance to have a bit of practice.
Well, this could be kind of handy for this new crop of second years coming in as well,
Exactly, yeah,
because
100%,
they won't have had hands-on experience with any of this, so they're going to be introduced to a lot of this kind of stuff as well this year.
Yeah. And the second year they'll be introduced to it, but I feel like they won't have as much experience when they get introduced to it.
Yeah,
they won't
that's
have that
the
chance
thing.
to like revise it and everything. So especially end of second year as well would also be useful before going to third year, because that will be when they're writing their films, their final year films.
But even some of the what will be the new crop of third years, it could be a handy thing because they've had so much time off campus last year.
Of course.
They'll have missed out on some of the stuff. So a lot of the classes were like just online, and we need this kind of hands-on stuff. It's going to be difficult enough to manage them, and I think some of the third years tend to not have as much physical kind of hands-on classes and stuff when it comes around to that kind of stuff. So it could be a very good time for them for the start of the semester with that.
Definitely. And another effect that I was going to do, but Luke saw the apertures, was that I was basically going to get like someone to do a bit of hand-holding with the camera. You would move it steady, and someone underneath will have an aperture as a torch. You flash it around while the camera is going steady. The torch needs to be flashed around really fast, but then there'll be a bit where you switch off all the lights, and then that's the perfect opportunity for jump scares and horror. Because you've got a single light, you've got a single light shining everywhere. All panicked. Once it goes out, audiences, that. Like they're already on edge with just the flashlight. Once that's gone, they're just in horror. That's where they are supposed to panic. You're like, oh god, like what's going to happen next? And that's just a good way to implement these like type of jump scares, I say. And I feel like that'll be very beneficial for students as well, to learn how to do like good movements with lights and stuff, because I feel like we don't really have any moving lights here at all. So why not do it manually? Get a pair of gloves and just like have a go, just move a couple of dados, just as I did there with the red light effect. I've seen so many films where you just see lights flashing across like while people are speaking, and it gives me personally such an eerie effect. And I feel like that could be very beneficial for students to learn something like that. So next part I was going to switch to was creating a bit more of a neo-noir action sci-fi type of effect. So what I would do now...
Very much looking forward to your references here.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is add a purple gel to this light here. I've got a couple already cut up. And this one I'm trying to do a bit harsher than the other ones, because I'm just trying to create just more of that mood with the colours. So I feel like splashing out more colours when it comes to sci-fi or action scenes, I think it just really adds to that scene. So I would always say to students as well, when you're putting gels on lamps, never use tape, please. Because it will burn, and there have been many situations where I've been in the kit room just spending an hour just trying to clean tape off dado.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not been fun.
I say it's cool though that you've got Owen Wilson to pose for us for this thing.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. what I'm going to do here is, which one is Phil? I'm going to dim it a bit because when it comes to these type of films, I like a bit of shadows in my scenes. My main reference point when I was doing this bit were Blade Runner 2049 and John Wick, because I just think those two action, Blade Runner sci-fi, I feel like those two films they line so well in their scenes. And we'll leave that right now, because the first bit I wanted to show was how a lot of action films these days, they tend to use motivational light to their advantage. So they'll have a lot of their fight scenes in rooms that have candles, that have lanterns, and these days, a lot of them have fight scenes in clubs, which I noticed they do because they want to use as many colors as they want. You know, they want to be creative with those colors. And John Wick Part 1 is the great example for that. Is there's a fight scene in a club, but before that they go and there's like a like a bathroom, like a bathhouse in there. And what I like in that scene is the whole room has this. I'm using purple, but the whole room has this like teal blue color effect to it. They also use gobos in that scene as well, where they've got them scattered across the sky and they've got shapes. They're constantly moving around, and when it hits character spaces, it shines like a bit of a red. But then you also see that pattern go onto their clothes. Obviously, that's something that I'm working on when it comes, because I do want to get lights that are, you know, that we do have cutouts like that. You know, I think that would be something we could look into in September. And what they do with a lot of the characters is they use colors and lighting to represent the protagonist and the antagonist. So in John Wick, in a typical action film or sci-fi, red would usually mean antagonist, blue protagonist. What I find interesting in John Wick is they use blue for the antagonist, and they use a mix of a blue and a red for John Wick himself. And it's an anti-hero film. You know, he's not exactly the great example of a protagonist, but I always found that type of effect really cool. So what I'm going to do here is, obviously using these dados, I've got a blue uplight, and then just splashing blue with purple I think just works really well. I think it just makes your scenes a lot more vibrant, especially like if you're dimming it in and out as well, could be an effect that could be used. But then, yeah, for John Wick itself, it's a bit more like this. So now blue and red are kind of mixed together, kind of just showing more of his like good side, dark side, you know, just a bit more of a play on his character. And I really think that mixing colours in scenes works really well, especially for actions and sci-fis. Yeah. What else was I showing? So also in a lot of these like sci-fi action films, they like spiking the lens as well, creating a little lens flares. Obviously, be careful when, like I would say to students, be careful when doing that. Don't want to.
I don't know anything about that. How do you do that?
Oh, so I was testing out earlier. It was kind of working. Essentially, what you would do is you would deliberately shine your light into the lens as it will be passing, and it will create this like little flare.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
I was trying to do it earlier. It was kind of working. Let me see if I can do that now. Obviously, use this. I would say students use this in like very subtle ways.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, use it in very subtle ways. Don't overdo it like J.J. Abrams. You know, just like little tiny scenes. It can be useful. I mean, I would only use these in a film if, you know, let's say it's an action film. Character does like a big move, lens flare. You know, if there's like a sci-fi movie, you're trying to, cause like a meteor or something like a laser firing off, lens flare, would be good for that. One of my favorite examples, again with the references, Godzilla, the 2014 one. There's a scene where they're all on a hangar plane, all going off to do this halo jump, which they know it's too, it's near the end of the film. They know what they're in for. They're going to be dive down and see all these monsters. And what I like about that scene is, so they're all on the plane. You see a bit of light projected through, and it cuts to the hangar plane up in the sky. You see that lens flare of the sun, and it's kind of like, it's a bit of brightness. But then as soon as that lens flare ends, you just see this like sinister atmosphere, tons of red, just like something really interesting, which I definitely find. That is pretty much it. I was going to show like fire effects and stuff like that, but obviously that's something apertures. One little cool effect I was having to play with is, for example, if you've got a scene where you've got a character looking out a window, might have a train passing by. So bring this area up. And I don't know how well this will be. So we close this like that.
Will I turn the monitor around for you? Do you want a reference?
Yeah, just so I got a bit of a reference as well. So what I would do is just have like a bit of light shooting through like that. It kind of creates that like, obviously it'll be better with sound instead of just me squeaking this.
It's like watching JJ Super 8.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just encouraging students to move around with the lights. Don't just keep them in one place. Like be hands-on. Obviously, be safe. Wear gloves. If they overheat, put them down. But just have fun with it. Like lighting doesn't have to be very conventional and like just 3-point lighting. You can have a bit of fun. Have a bit of play with it. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, I think
yeah.
it's really interesting because it's true that you don't, certainly I don't necessarily link all of these things, because I guess that's the magic of filmmaking, right? You think the train is passing by, like for real, for example.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how much of that is getting there to our students, because I don't know what they get. What is being delivered in terms of lighting? I don't know whether that's lighting electrical. It's not there still, is it?
It is.
It is.
Still there.
So, and I don't know what they do, but I don't know whether any of these things are.
I walked past during this year. I think they had the GTAs splitting the rooms, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this year is probably not the best year to judge it off, just because they were just running around everywhere. But like the little that I've seen, they're just going through the various. I don't know. I mean, Luke would be the one that I'd actually.
Of course, yeah.
So as an example, I've listened to one of those Deacons podcasts the other day, and they were going through how they've shot a scene from Sicario, and it literally is just like Emily Blunt in a studio about this big with a cardboard cutout in front of her and some grips moving lights.
Yeah.
So like any level of production, that still happens because they're
of course, yeah.
So
and you see it with a lot of these like big box office films. A lot of these like big scenes and everything, they just shot in like a corner of a studio, a couple of lights. That's it. You don't have to overcomplicate lighting, I feel like, but you should also try something a bit new. Especially if you're shooting. For example, last year we had a student did a sci-fi film. His lighting was okay, but again, it just could have been amplified a bit more. Using a bit more colors, a bit more movement with lights as well. Especially you've got like glitch effects in there as well. you know, just a bit more depth in that film. You know, like you want the audiences to be immersed and immersed in all of this. You know, you're not only watching a film and be like, oh yeah, I know how I did that. You know, that's very obvious. You need to, you know, like try to make it a bit flawless and, you know, just something a bit unique and smooth.
We can. I mean, this is one of the things again to try this year. When we were talking about that kind of playtime thing, to build rigs and stuff like that would replicate that kind of lighting and stuff like that as well before. Because we used it years and years ago, where they pretty much had the version of like a propeller, so there was two lights on the end, and they were just kind of flashed out. So it had that kind of movement of street cars or street lighting and stuff like that for driving to replicate that kind of stuff as well. But I mean, I know we don't have any of that kind of stuff here. There's always just that chance to look at those kind of things this year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's,
I'll just see if Tim has any. I know there's a.
I know it might seem quite rushed.
No, I mean, we get the idea. You know, it's you know, I know you didn't have all the kit, all of this kit here, but I know you didn't have all the kit because you've got it. But it gives us a good idea of you know, the intentions and you know how that might run. So that's
of course, yeah, and it's definitely more of a, you know, technician student like based workshop. It's not going to be like this for me just standing up here talking to everyone. Because obviously that's just like that lesson that they would normally do in a class or something. It shouldn't be a lecture, you know. It should be
exactly.
a workshop,
And I think that's what's really good about it, because you know, I think our students don't get enough hands-on stuff, because when they do have a practical as part of the module, they're usually a big group. Even if it's a smaller group, it's still too big, you know, to properly get their hands on things. And I think, you know, something like that would be really good for them. Definitely,
I mean,
just get on with it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Definitely need some fine tuning and like a bit more of like working out or like how to structure things like this. But I feel like you know, there's definitely an idea here to do something like this. You know.
I think the one you want it to be so interactive that a lot of it will just bounce up what they want as well.
Essentially,
If you have a rough structure of like what you want to hit within, say, horror, for example, then like that's why they've come. So they'll hopefully, if they come with their own ideas, they'll end up doing that.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
And maybe there is an initial one that is focused on, you know, on one job, but then after that it's like bring your own, tell me what you want, and you know, you just have that conversation with them.
Of course.
I think so. Tim has said thanks. I said maybe good to chat with Alan regarding stage lighting and projection mapping. As a discipline crossovers would be great.
Definitely.
Well, we can catch up in a few minutes then. What time is it? I mean, finish a bit early, so that's good. So we can maybe have a brief, what do I call it? A debrief in about, 20 minutes or something? I'll send it, send it as yesterday, but I'll send it again.
Sure.
Just to give you time to, you know, to relax, and if you want to start packing up, and I'll send the link and we can have a quick. So if there's further comments and all that. Great, but thank you. That's the end.
Thank you, man.
You made me want to watch some of these.
I know, like
forgotten how they went.
I base a lot of my exams